talk today to talk about my new documentary, Women of Color and Their Road to Success, and to talk a little bit about youth achievement and mentorships.
Most definitely.
This is my
So
first
tell
time
me,
using this.
I know, right? This is like a new gadget that I'm doing. The great thing about it is that it automatically posts on YouTube, and so you can share it, and then I can tweet in the midst of people logging on, and then people that log on to that will pop up, and then they can kind of join in on the conversation as they so see fit. So that's the reason why I decided to use it. I like trying new gadgets and different ways to promote. So awesome.
Wonderful.
So, Alisha, for real, tell me first a little bit about your history of being a mentor.
Well, actually, I've been mentoring for a long time. It's part of my family's belief system. We started mentoring or going on mentoring programs and trips with my grandmother through the church, where we would go to single family homes with single mothers, and my grandfather would show the men of the house basically how to take care of the house, carpentry, would work and things of that sort. And my mom would come in and teach my grandmother would come in and teach the girls how to cook. And so we were always taught, charity was important. It's important to give back to your community. But me personally, I basically learned how, important mentorship was in college. And having been partnered with different professionals that worked in different industries. And so when you wanted to go and get a job, you would be introduced to a mentor. So under your internship, you would have to, of course, have somebody that kind of looked over you. And that's how I was able to understand what professional mentoring was like as opposed to personal mentoring. And that's kind of how everything started with me as far as mentoring the youth, because part of the corporate program was each year you had to give a certain amount of hours to go in to different programs for mentoring. And they used to actually set one up. And a lot of people have done this back in the 80s and 90s through the Quaker company. And I don't know if you guys remember, off of Chicago Avenue and Laramie, they would take all of the kids out of the Robert Taylor homes that were over there. And we would come after work, like on Thursdays and Fridays, and we would mentor them for math, science, and reading. And that's kind of how I finally, as an adult, started mentoring, youth. And then from there on, I started being asked to mentor at different elementary schools and different high schools around the city. And that's where I'm at today. For the last 7 years, I've always mentored at Foster School on the South Side on 85th and Wood. Actually, they're 8th graders for economics.
And so how rewarding and fulfilling has it been in order for you to, be a mentor, especially in this time of the Chicagoland area just kind of really going through a lot in regards to with the violence and everything?
Well, to me, it's always been really rewarding. It's interesting because a lot of people think, oh, you're just doing this out of the kindness of your heart. And that's part of it, is that you want to make somebody that's interested, have somebody that's interested, in the community, that's really interested in the children, because it's a commitment. And that's the first thing about of mentoring, is understanding the commitment that you're going to make. But you get so much back out of it because of the fact that you are kind of, taking the opportunity and the responsibility to really, help someone with their life, whether it's professionally or it's personally. And when working with the youth, you want to first gain their trust, and you want to be able to factor, exactly what it is that they're looking to do. So, it's really important to understand, what kind of mentor you're going to be, because there's all different types of mentors. And also, depending on what age of the person that you're mentoring, will depend on exactly what type of tools you're going to use to mentor that person.
So another thing about mentoring, you just mentioned that what type of mentor you're going to be. Can you kind of give us an idea as to what some of those types of mentors people can be if they're interested?
Exactly. Actually, there's all different types of mentoring. There's obviously the expert. Most people look at it as like, they want to make sure that they find somebody that has been down that road before, that is successful in that role to be actually be able to come in and mentor. So that's kind of the wise, leader. Then there's the life coach, which, a lot of times people need life coaches. That's more of a professional type of mentorship. There's the teacher, which is usually someone who's coming in and they're an apprentice, so there's a apprentice relationship there. So it's really important to understand the type of relationship you're going to have if you're teaching someone. Obviously there's the peer mentor, where you have someone that is within the same industry or with around the same age or the same background or environment that you're from. So that's somebody that I think more people are more familiar with. And then of course there's mentors like you and I, the confidant. People who are
Right.
usually your friends or your families, and that's that one person that you feel like you really can confide in, and they have your best interests at heart. They're not going to judge you, because judging can be really detrimental in that type of relationship. There's the self-help mentor, which a lot of people don't really think about. That's when you buy books and you have people who kind of like self-medicate. So it's called the self-help mentor, where you read a lot of different books, you go to a lot of different seminars, and that way people can really do a formative way of looking at what it is that you're working on and what you need to mentor. And then there's also the inter mentor that we all have, where we do a self-analysis and we kind of mentor ourselves based on intuition. So there's a lot of different mentors. It's just what fits right for you. It could be just one, or it could be a conglomerate of different ones, and they may change depending on your life and your lifestyle.
Now, talking about mentorship and youth and the various different things that is going on now, especially within the city of Chicago, what do you think is happening here with the youth, the gun violence, and just the whole havoc and gangs? Because the misconception is that there are not people out there that's mentoring. There are a number of people that is out there, but you're not going to get everybody. You're not going to get all of the youth, because it's just one person. You know what I mean? Or one or two people that's mentoring, and everybody has to kind of come together and find their spot, their space. But in regards to the youth, and just based on the youth that you have worked with in the past, what were some of the issues that they were dealing with? So as a mentor, we can know what youth needs the most, like right then and there. You know what
Correct. As you know, in my bio, there's a quote that it only takes one opportunity for you to give a child the right word or the right message to put them on the path to success. And I'm paraphrasing that, but I think that for the most part, mentoring starts at home, just like I said, from the time that they're small to the time that they grow up. And a lot of times within the households, you don't have that support system that's there, and a lot of it is mentoring. We use that word, that formal professional word, but the truth of the matter is really just sharing experiences. And I think that what's happening is we've kind of gotten away from that, because we don't have relationships with our parents like we used to. We don't have relationships with our elders like we used to. People used to talk about big mom and them, and really think about, what are our kids really seeing? What are they experiencing? How am I helping them kind of understand their problems as they go along the day? Because the parents are just trying to, they're trying to get up, they're trying to go to work, they're trying to keep food on the table. And, it's really important to take time with your children, even if you don't have children, but to take time within the community to like really talk and listen to what children are going through. What are some of the things they need help with? Because mentoring doesn't always have to be a formal program. I think part of it is really just communication and understanding, how to listen, and then being able to share your experience with somebody. You can do that with your pal, your buddy. You can, you do that with your girlfriends. And it's important that you do that with your children as they get through different stages. It's important to understand that just as you have activities for basketball, baseball, dance class, pom-pom, it's important for you to understand what are successful building blocks they're going to need to get ahead in life. Not just activities, but also, help them understand what are the fundamentals they're going to need that that they don't get necessarily in school, and why this would apply to, them wanting to do better in their studies, but also how that's going to apply in how they're going to deal with people in the larger world. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Exactly.
When I
So one
Sorry,
of
go
the
ahead.
things that I want to touch upon is spending time with your kids. There was a young man that I had met. You know that I do a number of things. So at the venue space in which I'm having an event for you, the guy that's over it, 23, he had a whole bunch of tattoos, all over his body, right? And just at first glance, you'll think that he was like this gang banger, not going to do anything with his life, but that was further from the truth. He was a mentor. He was also in charge of making sure that the venue got booked. He would mentor the kids and tell them not to be in gangs, not to get involved in drugs. And he gave me a ride to the L. He told me, he said, you know what? When I was young, I was involved in gangs, and the reason being was not because my mother didn't love me, my father wasn't around, but because my mother worked all the time, and she was a single parent. And it just, he said he got into various different things because the parent wasn't around. And she did the best that she could, because that's what he said. She did the best that she could, but because of working and trying to provide for her kids, that caused him to be in things that he shouldn't be in, changed his life around. So I wanted to focus on the fact, number one, that we cannot judge youth just based off of appearance, because at first glance, when I saw all of the tattoos, your mind automatically thinks that, oh, he's a bad person. When in fact, his tattoos represented his love for basketball. And then also, number two, he came from a good home, but his father was not there. So I see a lot of times people blaming things on single parents and things of that nature, which I think is very unfair, because single parents, whether you're a woman or you're a man, you do what you have to do. So what do you say in regards to that? I know I said a mouthful, but what do you say in regards to youth whose parents are in the home, but they work all the time because they're trying to provide for them, and they're wanting to get into trouble just because of their peers is just influencing? Because that's another big part of why kids are getting involved in things they shouldn't be in, their peers.
Exactly. And I made that point in our introduction. I think the first thing that people need to understand is that when everybody wants to feel like they belong to something, that's first and foremost. It doesn't matter what age you are. And if you notice that kids that are involved, as I said before, in activities tend to not go the way of kind of turning towards the streets. They don't have anything to do. I think that, a lot of people want to blame the parents, but the reason a lot of people blame the parents is because that's their first line of responsibility, is to make sure that their kids are taken care of. I think as a parent, and I'm a parent of two, who are 20 and 16 right now, I think that it's important for people to understand that our community is based on not just parents. It's based on teachers, it's based on relatives, it's based on, neighbors, it's based on a little bit of everything. You don't have to be a parent to be a mentor. And I think that it's also important as a parent, even though that you're working, you still spend some time with that child. It's important that you understand that you have to have an open line of communication with that child at a young age. For somebody to say, it's all the parents' fault, because obviously they do have to work, but I think that also that we need to do a better job in our schools. We have to do a better job in our communities to identify these young people and to interact with them. Everybody seems to live in a vacuum right now, where personally and professionally it's just kind of like I'm doing my own thing. But the truth of the matter is that we're part of a collective, we're part of a community, and that's one thing that's different from when we grew up and what the kids have right now. They don't have a whole community sense. A lot of people don't know their neighbors. A lot of people don't know, the type of support systems that are in their neighborhoods, where before, you kind of, they went to the school to say, hey, we have these particular programs outside of the school in this particular community. We have these things at the universities. We have these parent teacher, activities that are going on that, are here to support the children. But in order for anybody, and it doesn't matter if you're the mentoree or the mentor or the parent, you first have to be involved. You have to get involved. So, if you want to change and affect change in these environments, and what I mean by environment is all of these different things that we experience that make us who we are, it's important to understand that, it really just starts with that one conversation and that opportunity. Getting to your second point, which is judging people. You can't judge people, just like they say, don't judge a book by its cover. I think it's unfair to judge a person just based on their appearance. I think that everybody has value. And as a mentor, I try and look at what that person's skill set is. I try and find out exactly what it is that that person is trying to achieve in their life, and come up with a basis that we can have free communication and free exchange. And I think that that's where you start to, build those blocks of trust with the mentor, with the mentoree, so that you get a good understanding of what environment they're coming from, so that you can then, figure out what the goals are of that person. Because as a mentor, it's really important that you have a really good understanding of what motivates that person. And if success motivates that person, you have to be able to define success. And this is the same thing with the parent. If you're going to be a mentor of a child that, and we have homeless children as well, so they don't have parents. So a lot of them, we try and motivate them by getting them to understand that, what, as an individual, you have already done this for yourself. Here's some other things that, you could do. The ones that do have parents, even when we're at the school, we bring the parents in to the equation. So they're part of the conversation, even though they're not at the school in the program. They're aware of what their child is doing, and they're able to actually measure the success of their child. So then they wind up actually getting involved. Where before, like you said, they're at work, they're like, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And they say, well,
right.
Now that he's been going to this program and now she's going to this program, she's actually come back to me to say, hey, mom, this is what I'm doing now, and I want to continue on this effort. There's a lot of different programs around the city of Chicago that are giving kids the alternative, that are free of charge, to come in, learn skill set, learn job training, get free educational programs to learn, how to fill out a resume, how to fill out applications for school, how to box, how to dance. I mean, there's so many, how to model. I mean, I know you have a program like that. So I think it's really just, identifying exactly what the goals are of these kids in this community, and then following that pace.
Yeah, I think you mentioned a lot of good things. I want to acknowledge people that we have on the lab. They were acknowledging that we have lost. It takes a village to raise a child.
Yes.
Don't judge a book by its cover. So everyone wants to feel like they belong to something. So true. So thank you guys for tuning in and commenting in our message box. If you have any questions for Alisha, she is a wealth of resources. We have a number of people that's logging on now. If you want to join the discussion, I can also open up the seats for you to talk to Alisha personally. So, like I said, Alisha is amazing. She's an amazing mentor. She has the accolades in order to prove that. I just want to gears a little bit, talk about an adult mentoring in regards to women in business. You recently shot a documentary called Women of Color in the Road to Success. Tell me a little bit about what prompted you to do that documentary and what's going on with it now, because it was the event that we attended and we did was successful, and just want to know what we're going from there.
Well, it was a really exciting project, and it actually came together very organically. As you know, I should tell your viewers that I spent 27 years in global consulting for trillion-dollar companies. And as a woman, it always occurred to me that, we would never, ever be taken seriously in certain environments. And no matter, how much, accolades that we got, it just seemed to me that there had to be a better way for us to communicate with each other. And the only time that we would really get together and communicate and compare notes was when something horrible happened. Like, that you were looked over for the vice president ship, or you were hoping to get more support from your team and you weren't getting that, or you'd be talking to your girlfriend and she would tell you, let me tell you what happened at work today. And I felt like, you know what, we need to open this discussion up to more women who are successful like us, who have fought the fight, who went to school, who have raised our family, who are in school right now. For some of our younger girlfriends, our girlfriends are, as you know, are between 25 to 65 when we get together. And so I wanted a chance to get everybody together to really talk about their experiences and see what we can learn from each other, and to basically think about, where are we lacking? Is it mentorship? Is it just the fact that, women aren't as comfortable sharing their feelings and their emotions with other women, or as they are with their men? Is it something that goes back to, where the fact that we're always in competition with each other? And I wanted a chance to get a group of women from different backgrounds together, but who all came from humble beginnings. So right there, we kind of understood all of the fights that we had to go through to be here. And when we say women of color, we didn't just mean Black women or brown women. We meant women who are complex in the way in which we move, and in the complexity in which we think, and how we are creative in how we think. And so basically I decided that this would be a good opportunity to get a lot of women together to share their experiences, to talk about, some of their roads, and how they could then maybe inspire other women by watching the film to think about how they treat other women, but also how they go about their relationships in their personal life, but also their professional life, and maybe gain some words of wisdom from these women to say, you know what, we have to stick together. We can get there together, and we're our biggest allies. In doing that, we decided to film it, and it became our first documentary for my company, Administrative Resolutions Network. And what we do is we actually are a consulting firm that specializes in organization development and business management for small to medium businesses. And it was me basically bringing together people who were my supporters, who were my resources, to talk about how we built our companies. And so we filmed it, and we decided to make it our first corporate sponsor event, which you attended and you're a part of. And I hope you enjoyed yourself at the event as well as.
I did. I had an amazing time. So I love networking with various women, and these women, like, I hadn't been in. I know a number of people, but these women I hadn't known. You introduced me to a whole entirely, different audience. All of the women were amazing. We come from different backgrounds. We were all minority, Latino, African American, and it was just a mixture of everybody. And I like that you brought us together for an awesome and amazing cause, because we got a chance to share our stories, and we got a chance to inspire other business owners. So that's what it's all about when you combine both of the two, business and inspiring.
And that night was amazing because you saw how many women and men who turned out because they were so excited about the documentary, and they kind of saw all of the things that led up to what we were doing. And, as we're building this movement, or we're creating these bridges to show people how to leverage their resources, what came out of the evening was that they started opening themselves to other networks. So we got about 75 people who were there, and we started, getting them to understand that that is a separate network. So now you have 75 new networks to work in. And whether you were Black, white, Hispanic, Jewish, they're all in the room. Indian, there were men on business, there were the clergy, there were non-for-profits. There was a little bit of everybody there. And out of that, we got 2 new clients. The non-for-profit got about 8 new people who wanted to help them with their new program. We raised all of the money that night that we were trying to hit for the evening, because we didn't charge anything to get in. And quite a few vendors made quite a lot of money. Ice cream lady hosted everybody.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. People are saying I'm echoing. I'm sorry. I'm not quite sure why I'm echoing, but we're gonna work through it. So if I'm echoing, I'm so sorry. If you want to ask a question, please post it, and I can ask Alisha for real if you can hear her better. So I won't talk as much.
I think it's because I have a standard mic, and that may be it.
Okay, probably
So
that's
it's
what
bouncing.
it is. So
Yeah.
next time, this is my first time doing a blab. I like blab because it allows you to see who you're talking to, and people can log on and you can share it on Twitter. So next time, I'll probably have to get what Alisha is wearing the mic so we can hear me better. So I apologize to the viewers, but we got good stuff going on because you can at least hear Alisha for real. Make sure that you are adding her on her Twitter page as well as her Facebook page. She has a wealth of resources. She's an amazing person, mentor, and businesswoman, and that's why we're interviewing her today. We want to get a couple of comments for those who actually saw the documentary and to see what their response was to it if we have them coming on a little bit later. And make sure you give her some hand claps. This little thing here, you see it, Alisha, where
Yeah,
people can
I
like
have
clap
actually
you. Isn't it cute?
406 hand claps. They're actually going up right now. Thank you guys so much. I'm so happy that you guys joined us. And I know we don't have a lot of time today, so I want to give a shout out and a big, everybody knows I always smooch, to all of my supporters and even new people who are following me. As Shatima said, my life is about giving back and definitely giving back to our community at a time right now where it's so prevalent. It's funny because I didn't just start this today, as Shatima knows. This has been my entire life. Just coming from where I came from, the south side of Chicago, very humble beginnings, growing up in the 70s, the 80s, going to school, coming back, spending a lot of time in different communities, not just here in the United States, but all over the world traveling. And my background, in education, modeling for many, many years, doing movies, television, radio. When I decided to go out and start my own company, it was really important that we started to rebuild the small businesses within our community. And the reason that I focused on that was because I really think that those are the people who actually give us the opportunities. They're the ones that set the example for our children. They're the ones that hire our high school students. It's usually their first jobs. I know that was my first job, and quite a few people, other people's first jobs, to actually show work ethic, as well as to bring services, to these communities. The next documentary that we're actually working on after this one is It Only Takes One Man, and it's about
That's gonna be me. Oh, I love it. I
I
can't
know
wait.
people are excited about that one. I got quite a
Yeah.
few calls from a different TV and radio magazine who are interested in the presentation and treatment for that. And I've been trying to keep it close to the vest because we just finished signing our last cast member. So
Awesome.
we had started out with two gentlemen, and now we're up to four that is going to be part of our cast. We have quite a few new film crews that is going to be joining us as well. So we're leveraging resources, and it's going to take place all over the city of Chicago, from the west side, the best side, to the south
Yeah,
side.
that's that.
And we're going to bring in quite a few other programs so that we can highlight the things that are going on in Chicago that are positive. We're going to get some people back to work. We are going to be issuing information, and we're going to be putting together some new programs. We're hoping the city of Chicago is going to help us, and you guys are going to follow us through the documentary on getting some more grant money and some more resources to these underserved communities. And we're going to hopefully go out with women of color, and I say hopefully we are. We've been invited to a few universities. We're putting together a program right now for a seminar for undergraduate studies for women. Well, actually, it's a little bit for all of the undergraduates, but we're focusing on women's studies, and we'll be showing the film first within the Midwest, and then we're hoping to present it to all of the HBCUs coming up and be able to come in and do a seminar. I know we're kind of excited about that. We've got a couple different invitations already and working on more, as well as we're hoping that when we're done with It Only Takes One Man, that we will then go into the elementary schools and the high schools and actually do the junior achievement program, and actually put together a program for our youth. And it's going to be kind of a loosely based program in seminars we put together based on my experience working with the junior achievement program for the city of Chicago. So we got some good stuff that's coming up for our community projects for ARN, but also for the company as well. So we're really excited about 2016.
Awesome, 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 awesome stuff. So the other thing that I wanted to talk to you about that came up in the documentary, well, not in the documentary, but when we were having the question and answer session, was how does women in business balance motherhood and family or having a husband and children? So can you kind of elaborate on that? Because for women, it seems to be a little bit harder, for whatever reason, because we generally are the nurturers, we generally are the ones that take care of the children from a nurturing perspective while our husbands or significant others work. You know what I mean? So how can you balance being a businesswoman such as yourself and as well as being a mom and wife?
Well, it's funny because Tony Osborne, who's now one of my new writing partners, I think she said it best. I'm not. I don't want to take credit. I want to make sure everybody gets their credit. Um,
Right.
and it's funny too because I'm going to start with something that you said in the documentary as well, which is that you truly have to love yourself first.
Mm-hmm.
And finally get to a point where you realize that you are the most important thing. It sounds selfish, but it's very true, because if you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of anybody else.
Yeah.
And then Tony's portion was, there's no such thing as a superwoman. You can balance the two, but you can't do everything at once. Even
Right.
though we make it look very easy, it's not something that you can do all at once. And I think the most important thing that people need to understand is, you have to figure out exactly what it is that you want and the time in which you want it. And a lot of
Mm-hmm.
women can't seem to understand that because they're trying to do so many things, and it kind of gets them to be exhausted, and they're not really doing it as well as they thought they was. And of course they feel guilty. So I think what the most important thing to do is first decide what is going to be your plan. And the first thing that you need to do is be very specific about what it is going to go on your plan, which is what the most important thing. So you got to work. Okay, great. What is the timeline in which you have to work? You have to get the kids off to school, or you have to get the kids from point A to point B. What are your resources in which to do that, and what is the timeline in which to do that? It's important that you stay very organized. That's the other thing that's really important, is that is really, you need to have some kind of calendar, some type of reminder, so that okay, I'm supposed to be here, I'm supposed to be there, I got to make this phone call. So that way, when you're putting together your schedule, whether it be at work or at home, people understand what your
Right.
limitations are. So then, once you can share that with your resources, whether it be your older kids, whether it be with mom, or whether it be with the setter, whether it be with your husband, whether it be, with the teacher at school, or even your boss or your assistant, to say, these are the things that are a mainstay in my life that I cannot get around. It's us as women who tend to want to make everybody happy. And so then we
Yeah.
start fudging on this and fudging on that and fudging on this. And then all of a sudden it all falls apart. And then we wonder, oh, wow, what happened? And now I can't juggle everything. If you watch Mary Jane, you saw that the producer on Mary Jane all of a sudden was like, I can't do this, and I'm the worst mother on the planet. But she had already chosen to be the best super producer in television. You can't
Mm-hmm.
decide that that's going to be your mainstay, to be the best super producer on the planet, and then at the same time think that you're going to have these children and be able to ignore them. So you have to be very honest with yourself when you say, you know what, I'm going to go about putting together my plan. I'm going to go about reaching the goals that I feel are important for me, and I'm going to make the children part of that. So in order to do that, you have to set, as I said before, a definite schedule and definite goals of what you want to achieve for yourself, for the job, for the children, for your man, for your household. And that's how I do it. People are like, how do you get everything done? You've been to my house, you've been to my parties. You're like, how did
Mm-hmm.
you shoot a video, make a movie, start a company? The house is spotless, walk the dog, the kids are clean.
Right.
And I don't do everything at once. It's not possible. And then also look fine. You got to look good too. That's why, I call it the
Exactly.
Jolie syndrome, where you got to be a movie star, you got to have an Oscar, you got to marry Brad Pitt, you got to adopt 9 kids, you got to raise, $7 billion for UNICEF, you got to ride a motorcycle, you got to pilot a plane, whatever, Angelina. We're not trying to do all that. So,
Right.
you know what I mean? It's possible, but you have to be very honest with yourself, in doing that. And it's something also that I teach my children, going back to, making sure that you're able to communicate with your children. I grew up in a household where it was like you don't want to tell your children your problems. I still agree with that, but you do want to have them understand life lessons, and that
Right.
it's important for them to be able to figure things out. And that's one reason why when I decided to go in and actually put together a curriculum for the kids in 8th grade, I thought that was a good time in which to really teach them about the economics of success. And then it would also include all of the things that go into what steps they were going to make as they went from grammar school to high school, from high school to college, into the job field. But then also once they got out of the job field, what would it be like once they get to a point where they decided that they wanted to start dating or get married, and what the responsibilities would be for those choices they made in their life, and then of course what the risks were going to be. So for me, I did the same thing with my children first, and I realized that part of that was not only educating myself, but then sharing what I learned with my children.
Right.
And a lot of people don't do that.
Yeah.
You're sitting here and you're like, I'm learning this and I'm learning that, but then you don't think about, like, you know what, this is something that would be a really good lesson for my children.
Mm-hmm.
We really, we know all the fables, like, don't count your chickens before they hatch. That doesn't mean anything if you don't show. Right, but exactly. But they're to teach you, lessons. But a lot of times we use them, but we don't explain to them what the lesson is. So our kids are like, what does that mean?
Exactly.
She sounds crazy. But what I try and do is not just give them the saying, which we use, as kind of like a smarky kind of remark to certain things that our kids do. I try and then let them understand why that's important. So
yeah, I totally agree. And I like the piece where you are teaching your children the dynamics of entrepreneurship, because you have a daughter that is amazing. She is the editor. Right? She edited the whole entire film, right?
Yeah, she's actually the producer. She does the cinematography and she does the editing for a lot of she started doing my videos on my YouTube channel, because I'm on YouTube too. If anybody wants to go to YouTube, you can go to Alisha for Real on YouTube, or Administrative Resolutions on YouTube. And you get business as well as community videos that we've done. They're usually between like 2 to 5 minutes, but that's kind of how we started. She was like, you do all of these different events and programs, but no one sees them, and everybody's like, these are amazing. So she started filming them for me, and that's how I really just started my following. I went from 0 to over 6,000 followers in 3 months. I don't know why, at least for real. I guess it's exciting. But, she was like, you really need to share this so that people learn, and that people get excited about what you're doing and start, being able to visualize what you're doing. And then now I'm getting people who are copying a lot of the programs that I'm doing, which is kind of exciting. But yeah, I mean, my son's the same way. He's in fashion. He's at Columbia. He does he's going to merchandising, and he's also doing advertising for a lot of the large fashion houses. He works right now doing a lot of social media. I hired him and his partner as junior members as part of my digital branding company for my clients. So they do a lot of the digital branding. They did my first commercial for digital branding online, which you can also see on our YouTube channel. But I think that, these are the type of things that get young people excited, because they want to know, where their education is going to take them,
Exactly.
And so, I can share with you, just some quick points if you want, of what are some of the things that we do within our particular class in our program.
Go ahead.
So we were talking about, mentoring your child, and what are some of the things that you can do. We came up with the curriculum of economics for success. Now, when they gave me this original program, I rewrote it because there was a lot of games in there. And I thought, well, who wrote this? Because I don't know if this is going to speak to our African-American children on the South Side of Chicago playing games, and it's not really going to relate to them every day and what they see and what their parents are telling them and what they see on the news, and it's going to be relatable. So what I decided to do was to give them the same program concept, which was, analyzing information, critical thinking, inquiry skills, interpreting data, Obviously, math calculations is really important to be able to count your money, and also written communications, and then just really understanding
Right.
problem solving, and to start teaching them their own self-assessment, which is why a lot of people go wrong with their children, is because they're not teaching them how to self-assess. They just kind of tell them yes and no, and this is good and this is bad and this is right or wrong. But when you're sitting there and you're trying to make a decision on, should I go with my friends to steal out of the store? Should I, go with my friends to make this little side money? That, you need to have a little self-assessment to say, you know what, is this going to get me where I want to go by doing this particular act? And then working in groups so that they could then understand that, you can't do everything by yourself. It's important for you to have that peer mentorship, and it's important for you to, listen and to work with other people, and why it's important that other people's other people's ideas are important, not just yours. So then we will break it down into 6 different areas. And the first thing that
Right.
we do is build their confidence, and we have something that's called self-knowledge. So we basically have them sit down and say, you know what, even at this age, you have all of these things. We want you to just write out 3 of the things that you have, which are skills, interests, and values. And what this would do is that it helped us then put it together to decide, what education they would need, what careers they would need, and what other life choices they would need to reach their goals. Because everybody's got a dream. It doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter who you are. And then we would
That's
go
so
on to teaching them how to be successful. So then we would look at, okay, based on these skills, based on these interests, based on these values that you have, based on your likes and your dislikes, this is the kind of job that would work on that. So look at these jobs. This is the type of skill sets that would be great for this particular job or this particular area. They would pick all kinds of jobs based on their experiences and their environments. And then we would talk about, okay, well, what kind of education does it take to be that person? And I would always get, I want to be a businessman. And I would say, okay, what kind of businessman? Well, they don't know at these ages. So then we'd have to talk about, once again, well,
right.
what do you like? What do you not like? And then we would go into, understanding, well, what is a salary like that look? What is a salary for that particular job look like? So I would literally give them that salary, like all of it, in like one sitting. So they would have like basically paper money. So, you would be handed based on your job,
Oh, I
and
like
based
that.
on the level of education you had, and based on the salary that you have, you would get your year's salary in your hand. Then, which is pretty powerful, to get $150,000 and say, here's your money. This is how much you made based on your education if you stayed in school. And then we taught them how to actually put together a budget and balance that. And so that's when they started to then use math to say, okay, I got this $150,000. So now I'm going to go and I'm going to do whatever with it. But then it was like, no, you have to open a bank account. You have to understand what your monthly salary really is. What, are you going to have a car? Are you going to have a house? Are you going to have an apartment? Are you going to buy groceries? Are you going to have, clothes? Are you going to buy food? Those type of things. And then they started to see that, okay, all of this money that I'm getting, I have to be able to negotiate what I'm going to do with it. Then we would have the things, what I call, you need it, you want it, you got to have it. And those are all your vices. So then you start thinking about, we have this one game that's called Savory Shopper.
Yeah.
I would let them play this one game because I think that was where a lot of people went wrong. And it's not necessarily what you want, which would teach you in the game of like, you have a certain amount of money of things that you have to buy. But of course, all of the cool stuff were the things that you thought what you needed was the things you have to buy. What you wanted, the things that you had to have, which are of course the luxury items. Then you had to decide, did you want to put it on credit or did you want to pay cash for it? And if you were able to buy the things that you needed, you'd always have a little money left over. Of course, we didn't tell them that. So buy one of the things that you wanted that you just had to
Right.
have. And so it started teaching them about debt and credit. And during that time period, we would then also teach them about your credit score. So what went into your credit score, and also what were some of the other things you had to worry about, like Social Security. What is Social Security? What is FICA? What is credit information? What are credit scores? How do you get one? How do you keep one? And then finally, we would talk about what the risk is and how do you calculate the risk in your life to protect yourself. And we started talking about insurance. We started talking about when you have a family. We started talking about when you own a company, when you own a car, why it's important to have insurance, why it's important to respect other people. And in the middle of all of that, when we were handing out salaries, I would always pick 3 to 5 ballers in the room, which means that you're just a naturally talented person, and you would either be J-Lo or LeBron, or you would be like, just somebody amazing who had this, like some amazing writer, and you were making like millions and millions of dollars, right? So they would write down, I'm worth 35 million, and other people would be like, that sucks that, he gets to be, LeBron, and she gets to be J-Lo, and, this person is like Spike Lee, or this person is making a bunch of money, or he's a senator or whatever.
Right.
And I would show them then all of the problems that come along with that. Like, LeBron got divorced twice. Somebody else, broke their leg. So now they're out for the season. Or, J-Lo, she was selling a bunch of clothes, but then her biggest like designer left, and then, she lost half of her, line for that summer. So then they had to think about, okay, now what else can I do? Yeah. So then it was like, wow, because now it's starting to get real. People lose their lives. People do get divorced. People do have to have plans. People do still have to take care of their children. People still have to deal with these things in life that they saw every day. And then we started talking about the people in the class who, at this point, as you know, got their head down, they're talking, they're not listening. And I would tell them, you see the man that's on 87th Street. Everybody knows the man on 87th Street in Stony Island that sells socks and sell candy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those are those people.
Yes.
So they had an understanding of who was in their community, but also who their role models were that people didn't realize are actually our children's mentors.
Yeah, and I'm looking at Periscope too, because we're also live on Periscope. So I got the phone here taping as we are going here. So hi, my Periscope viewers. We are tuned to Mocha Chocolate TV and radio. People are joining now. We are here with Alisha for real. If you want to come in on the discussion, you can go to www.blab right here. Oh, you can't see it from there. It's www.blab.com and type in Mocha Chocolate TV to kind of join in on a live discussion. Or I can hold the Periscope here for you to kind of see it as well. If you want to join Alisha for real on Periscope,
I'm actually I'm not on Periscope tonight, but I actually do have broadcasts on Periscope when we do events. So I'm at Alisha for real on Periscope if you guys want to follow me or join me when I actually broadcast on Periscope.
Awesome. So that is
I'm all over social media. I got Twitter, I got Facebook, I got Instagram, I'm on Tumblr, I'm on Periscope, I'm on YouTube. So, whatever it's going to take to reach the community and get people inspired and involved to think differently about how they leverage their resources, how they mentor each other, how they communicate with each other. And if they want to hire my company, this is what I do. I make a lot of companies successful by leveraging their resources, increasing their productivity, and their profitability. It's been really interesting because we've been doing a lot of executive coaching, and that's kind of mentoring for adults. And what we do is we go in and we do a holistic approach to find out exactly, what are the goals of that particular business owner. Some people who have been in business for 5 to 10, 15, 25 years, they lose focus of where they thought they wanted to be at based on the scope of their business. And the more and more they've been in business, they lose focus, they lose They lose motivation. They want to be able to take their company to the next level. And a lot of times it's not just going in and really looking at, okay, let's put together a program to make your business better. Sometimes it starts with making that business owner better and having them understand through executive coaching exactly what their goals are and reevaluating who they are, where they want to be professionally and personally, and then giving them the tools to then go in and look at the project plan, but then also go on to figure out what the change management plan is going to be to make those changes to be successful. And it's, a lot of companies do it. A lot of successful VPs do it because they realize that who they were in, their 20s when they started out and when they got the promotion and when they went out to, into these companies or to go on to start their own companies, that their priority changed. They changed. And so, what they're wanting to do is different. Their kids are off to college, or, they just got married and they want to be able to really reevaluate what their role is going to be, not just in life, but also within their companies, and how they're going to rebuild them and retool them for the next 10, 20, 30 years. And that's why, for example, mentoring, digital branding is huge right now. We get a lot of people who want us to remarket, repackage their brands, because as I keep telling people, if it doesn't show up on my iWatch in the next 5 to 10 years, I don't even want to know about your company. I don't even want to know about your brand. If you're not using social media to sell me, if I can't get what I need and I know that it's going to be available and it's going to be convenient for me, then I'm not really interested. So we're doing a lot of really interesting things with the company, and we're meeting a lot of new people who are really interested in leveraging their resources and understanding that, time, people, and money, as they call it, the triple constraint in project management, is something that people are putting more value in, and it's helping them save money in their companies. So there's a lot of different ways in which we're using mentoring and leadership management to improve companies across the board.
Yeah, and I think that what you're doing is great. And I like how you combine what you do in business with the youth. And I think that's important to kind of tie in, just get two subjects, the importance of mentoring and then also the importance of entrepreneurship and business, specifically geared towards women and minorities that are in business. But the one piece that you touched upon is when you are doing your mentorship program for business and finance for youth. So I think that's the missing component in our school. We need more of that. Mentors that are teaching our young people how to be entrepreneurs, because you just never know if you get laid off. I know you've been through it. I've been through it. Being laid off and just kind of transitioning your life into something different. So kind of touching base for the youth, and where can I get these assessments until you start up the program or until I do an event and I have you come in and speak? Is there any tools that they can use online to kind of start assessing what they're at, even for youth as well as adults?
Yeah, we don't really have our assessments online. We actually go in and we teach them. So I'm sure you could do your research. There's a lot of books that are out there that you can do for assessments. There's certain things that you can pick up on your own. I actually bought one. As you know, I always bring a book when I talk to you, Shatima. I never show up without some type of book. People are like, she's always got a bunch of books with her. I'm always reading. I'm always learning. Things are always changing. So I'm going to see if you guys can see it. It's called The Leadership Machine by Michael Lombardi. And this is the book, The Leadership Machine.
Type it in. The Leadership.
This is the cover. It's by Michael Lombardi and Robert. I'm horrible with names.
Okay.
Asinger and censure, I think is how you say it. But this is a really good book on leadership. And basically it talks about competencies of success, self-knowledge, and you can really, use this for, I think, any age group. All you have to do is just make sure that you understand the fundamentals of development. You can also go out online. I mean, now you can research anything on the web and just go in and do a web search. But I think that it's really important that people, it simply starts, and this was, in our last program that we did, which was how we sabotage ourselves in our personal and our professional lives. I don't know if you remember that particular program. With who, what, when, where, why, and how. Who is your audience? What do they want? How do they plan on getting there? Where can they get the information? How are they going to use it, to the best of their abilities? And why is it important to that person? And I think that once you start writing just those things down, you can start to develop, what your program's going to be. The other thing is, there's a lot of people journal. The thing about journaling is that it gives you an idea of, it gives you a chance to slow everything down and take a self-assessment. It gives you a chance to write out your experiences. It gives you a chance to think about the conversations that you had. My company, we are hired for seminars that are based on a plethora of different trainings, from organizational development to strategy management, to teaching people the core skills of building out project plans, to putting together programs for sustainability, for succession planning, for marketing, imaging. It just depends on what the company uses. But for our youth in particular, I think that it's important for you to really understand what are the gaps, what are the things that you want to get across from that youth. You want to keep them off the streets. Find out, once again, what would they be interested in. If they're not interested in something, talk about some of the things that are available. You have the YMCA, you have the Boys and Girls Club of Chicago, you have a lot of different sports programs that they could be involved in. There are youth programs through all of the different, from the universities to, the Bulls has one, the Cubs have one, the Chicago Police Department has one. You really just need to do your homework and really look at, what are some of the programs they have in your areas for mentorship, as well as some of the schools itself has programs. Or like I did with my kids when they were in elementary school, go to the PTA, start the PTA, start your own, like you did,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I started an organization for youth that's modeling and performance art, and looking to do some more things with that. It's called Model with Speak. So it's really performance arts based, but me having an accounting and business background, kind of like what you spoke of, business and teaching the kids how to own their own business. This will gear them more towards performance arts, and then maybe incorporate some other things. So it's an amazing thing that you're doing. We steady have people that's coming on the line, which is great. I don't want to keep you long, Alisha, because I know that you are a busy mom and wife and business person. What are some, let's do a recap after everything that we talked about, and then we're going to share this all over social media. You'll get a copy, and then I'll be posting it everywhere in various different groups for those who missed the actual taping. Let's do a recap of everything we kind of discussed today to kind of leave our followers and viewers with some golden nuggets for women in business or minorities in business as well.
I think, the one thing that I will leave everybody with is that, it's really important to just get involved. It really is. I think that you really need to take the time to widen your network. You really need to get out and talk to other people, find out what their interests are, if their interests are in line with yours. That it's really important to share information, not just with, your peers, but also with your children, to find out exactly what interests them, to get them involved. I think it's important for people to understand the reason why we did the Women of Color and Their Road to Success, which is on YouTube. So anybody can go right now and watch the documentary on Alisha for Real on YouTube. And it's only 35 minutes, but I think it'll be a very uplifting 35 minutes for anyone. I think that
if you can't post the link, Alisha, I know this is your first time. I'm going to try to do it, Women of Color, YouTube, but if you can post it, if you have access to it.
Yeah, if you join YouTube, yeah, it's under Alisha for Real. And so, not just that particular documentary is there, but all of our video about marketing. There's a video about Get to Know Me, so you know a little bit about my background. There's a video that we did on the community, and these are the type of things that we're talking about, which is really important for people to understand that it does take a village, and that it's really important that, people understand that, you can't judge a book by its cover, and that we're all leaders, and that if you are really interested in making sure that your children get the best experience out of life with the current way in which we're living, with the current environments that we live in, it's important that you reevaluate your relationship with your children, but also within the community, so that if you're around children, you are talking to your neighbors, you're getting to know who's who, you're getting involved in programs, and you will feel better about yourself because you're giving back. And I think that's the thing that's the most rewarding for me, is that, you know, I get out of it just as much as I put into it, raising money and just seeing, you know, the exhilaration on people's faces to say, you know what, somebody took the time to ask me about me. Everybody likes to feel included. So get out there and include yourself.
Awesome. Get out there and include yourself. And then for minority women in business, your follow up to that, or
it's interesting because with, like I said, with the out of the documentary, we had a lot of people who wanted us to come and speak at their universities and at their different programs and do seminars based on what we were doing. And, you know, I'm just really excited because it's not just, like I said, the women of color is not really necessarily African American women or women who are brown. It's really just about our complexity as women, and the fact that, you know, we're different in the way that we think from men and our creativity. And I think that there's a power that's there. And so in doing that, you know, we're learning how to communicate better. We're learning how to come together and build coalitions as women. You know, the next documentary is going to be It Only Takes One Man, and it's about businessmen and how they're basically mentoring in the community, but how they go about including what they do in their businesses with what their hobbies are. So, you know, one teaches boxing, one, you know, is a police officer, one has a love of reading, and he's a reverend, so he's basically runs the Real Man Read program. Another one is he's a paramedic. He's a fireman and a paramedic. So he's on the West Side every day mentoring, sharing information, but he's also the first responder, unfortunately, with a lot of the shootings that are going on in Chicago, and he goes back into those neighborhoods. So, you know, it's not necessarily just about women. Obviously, I have a soft spot because I happen to be a woman that's been in corporate America for so long, but I think that it's important for us to understand that, you know, we don't live in a vacuum, we don't work in a vacuum, we work in a community. So not only, you know, are you in the community, you are the community. So it's important that you get back to the community. And with that, I go back to my community and finish putting away the pot roast. We're talking about balancing. Can't be everything, you know.
Balancing, being a businesswoman, motherhood, being a wife. Thank you so much, Alisha, for real, for being on Mocha Chocolate TV and radio. This is a little bit new that I tested. I think I like it. Do you like it?
I like it. I like it a lot. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
I think our next topic that we're going to do is we're going to get some women in business to maybe ask, you know, 2 questions, kind of give them a little bit of advice to get the more community involved. So now that we got this lab thing going, so you reach out to maybe 2 women, and I reach out to maybe 2 women who may have a question about business, and we can have them on the screen and kind of ask questions and discuss their business. How that's it?
Yes, definitely.
Cool. So you are tuning in to Mocha Chocolate in radio with Alisha for real. Make sure you like her, give her hand claps. You get 200. You get 700.
Thank you.
35.
Thank you guys so much. I appreciate all this love and support. And please look for me on all your social media under Alisha for real.
Okay.
Thank you.
Until we meet again, let us all say Mocha Chocolate TV at the church element in it.
Mocha Chocolate TV. You're always so great job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.